in Missouri.
Damn.
That sounds crazy, but again, I have many like that.
Do you think it's mud floods that cover these things up?
Right. So you asked me, and I had to try to summarize as quick as I could. What is this realm? What do I think of this realm? There is a repeating factor to it. It's city on city. It's culture on culture. One knows nothing about the one below. In fact, one of my videos, I can't remember the title of it. Let me look it up so I can give you the exact name of it. Ancient Buried Races of the Americas, Cataclysmic Cycles, Mud Floods, and More. Reset after reset. This archaeologist was in Mexico, and he was, working on the pyramids in Mexico. And he was trying to dig a well because he had hired all these locals to dig out from the tropical vegetation that had overgrown these pyramids. He was hiring locals to clear out all the vegetation, the vines, so on and so forth. And he was digging a well so he could get well water. And he kept breaking into separate open areas. And under this one pyramid complex in Mexico, he found 4 buried cities.
What?
Yeah. And each city had about 20 to 30 feet of earth on top of it, and then another civilization. And that video alone, again, sounds crazy, but this is the same thing I've been finding in, again, California, Alaska, New Mexico, on and on and on. We stand on the shoulders of giants for sure. And the size of the people tends to get larger the deeper you go.
Wow.
Same with the creatures.
Wow.
Yeah. So for your listeners out there, I would just suggest starting with Anomalous America, Alaska. Again, why I started with that video is every single article in that video is absolutely mind-blowing. Again, from the 1,200-foot long ship to the buried frozen cities. They find whole cities frozen. They find a Grecian-style city on a mountaintop that had been covered with earth. And there was either an earthquake or a landslide of some kind, and it revealed this whole city. And another miner is looking for claims. He's in kind of middle Alaska in summertime, and he stumbles upon a fully tropical area. Basically, the ground has been warmed by volcanic activity, and the whole rest of the area is frozen, or not frozen, but covered in snow. And there's this entire area where there's all this wild game and tropical vegetation. And that video just kind of kickstarts you into the whole series, and every episode has things that are crazy like that. Where I would put that.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think the mud flood might have happened around the late 1700s, early 1800s?
Well, the restarting, and again, on my lens is here, America. I think that the repopulation concepts were far more advanced in what we would call Asiatic or European countries. Again, looking at this from that time period that I just said, the newspapers give you such amazing evidence of this. For example, my last episode 20 of Anomalous America, I share a clip, again, a miner. They're digging down a shaft, and they find a standing forest. It hasn't been blown over. The trees aren't knocked down, and it's buried. The entire tops of the trees are buried 20 feet. So they go down 20 feet of earth.
Wow.
They find a whole standing forest. And the author in this article, he says, whatever covered this forest filled in this area slowly. There wasn't some giant flood wave that knocked these trees over and laid them buried on their sides, which I have evidence of that as well. So basically, what people would describe as a mud flood, where they show all these buildings where there are 1, 2, or 3 stories of this giant building, is buried under the earth.
Yes, we've seen that. We've
Right,
seen
where you have windows where just 2 or 3 inches are sticking above the ground, or you have stairs up to the first floor, like most Capitol buildings of every major U.S. city in America, all over the realm, really. But again, just going through what I've shown in my videos, that there is ample evidence to show that there was an event called a mud flood, where not only buildings, but whole standing forests were slowly inundated. It was a slow event. What caused that, how it happened, I have no idea.
Dude, that was very interesting what you just said right there. Stairs to the first floor?
Yeah.
Like, that's really interesting to me. Like, why would you have stairs to the first floor?
Look at every Capitol building in America. Not everyone, but almost all of them. You're taking stairs to the first floor.
That's so interesting.
What do you think about
my state capital, Salem? Every building's like that. And in the oldest images of my state capital, it looks, it's an absolute ghost town, but you have these giant monumental buildings with nothing around them, but mud and grass. And if you're like, okay, and they're on hills, so it looks like a building on a hill. And again, Oregon in the early 1800s, or well, again, this is like 1850s, 1860s. The population was like 8,000, right? So, and that's for the whole state. So we're talking that you got all this material together with horse and buggy, and you built this amazing stone structure on a muddy hillside. Like, and again, that's just one example. When I was in middle school, they used to have tours of Portland, Oregon, where you could go down into the subterranean. And we went down 3 stories in Portland. They told the stories about how sailors would be shanghaied, and there were trap doors in the bars, and drunks would get dropped down, and then they would end up on a ship to China. And
what?
That seemed, without a frame of reference, you're just like, wow, why are there 3 stories of these buildings? These buildings go down 3 stories. Why are there 3 basement levels? And this is almost all the brick buildings in Portland. I mean, you can go for block after block after block underground. And then after doing, again, my research into the Tartaria stuff, and again, this channel, you find that there are cities all across America and the world where almost all of the major cities, there is a subterranean, not only tunnel system, but basement levels of buildings that are completely uninhabited, or the people above them have no idea if they even exist.
LA's like that. LA is a giant train system that we don't use. And they're just like, yeah, we got to build a subway system. You're like, well, there's already one there. Why aren't you using that?
Yeah. So I have articles, again, from New York City where they're building subway tunnels, and they run into another tunnel. They're like, oh, we didn't know this tunnel was here. It's like, what? And that's Paris. I have newspaper articles in Paris, same thing. They're building a new subway tunnel. They hit another tunnel, an abandoned tunnel.
What?
And then I have another one in London, same thing. And the Paris one's the best because they say underneath Paris is honeycombed with tunnels, miles and miles of tunnels, and most of them are unidentified.
Okay, you brought up cities around the world. What do you think about world fairs? Are those real? Were those just made up?
Oh, here we go. We're gonna bring Johnny in.
Well, I was going to ask this myself because I wonder, because this would put you at odds with the newspapers of the time if you had a certain take on the World's Fair. So I'm very curious about that myself.
I think of the World Fairs as like indoctrination stations. You're bussing in a bunch of people into a realm that is freshly inhabited, so to say, right? Because the quote aborigines that we murdered or kicked off the land and then decided, hey, we're going to build a city here, even though it's built on the foundations of 1, if not 2 or 3 other ancient cities. All the cities of America, the big ones especially, are built on top of other inhabitations. There's no better example of this than my Arizona episode of Anomalous America, where Phoenix, Flagstaff, just about every city in Arizona, in newspaper articles, they're saying, oh yeah, this city is just, you go down 10 feet and there's a whole nother building. Salt Lake City. Again, I have many examples of this in California. But yeah, I think they're bringing in all this stuff like relics. Like, oh, look what we found. Here's a mummy from Mexico. Here's a petrified tree from Arizona. And it's like this museum for a newly indoctrinated group of people.